Hello guys, and welcome to today's tutorial. So if you want to learn how I made this awesome and trendy, overall it's beautiful, this beautiful baggy palazzo pants, you can stick by and watch to the end of this tutorial. So please do not forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel, and also follow us across our social media handles. So let's get right into this.
In order to make the baggy palazzo pants, the things we'll be needing are your elastics and chalk with your rulers. So what we'll do first is to fold your fabric. So this is my front piece now. So my front piece is 20 inches. 20 inches is my front piece, and how I got this 20 inches was I used quarter of my hips. Okay, you get quarter of your hip circumference, you add 8 inches to it. That is if you want to achieve the degree of bagginess that I have in my own video. So you get quarter of your hip circumference and you add 8 inches to it. Do not bother adding any sewing allowance or all that, because we'll be taking from the fabric to make the allowance and all that. So yeah, so you get quarter of your hip circumference, which for me is 12 inches. So 12 inches as the quarter, then I'll be adding 8 inches, like I said. That is 20 inches. This is for the front. This is now on a fold. So do you understand? So to get the whole width, whatever you get as quarter of your hip plus 8 inches, you multiply that by 2 to get the whole width of the front piece. Okay, so for the back piece, whatever you get for the front piece on a fold, you add 2 inches. So that will mean that whatever you get plus 2 inches, you multiply that by 2, that will give you the whole piece for the back. So yeah, now let's get started. So at the top line now, I will come down and create my margin. So the yellow line, this is my margin. Okay, so what we'll do next is to measure in. We're going to be measuring our vertical measurements. So you take the width of your band. The width of my band is 1/3. The width of my band is 1/3. So we're going to be subtracting that from every vertical measurement. Okay, so 1/3. So I'm going to be subtracting 1/3 from every of my vertical measurements. So the first measurement we'll be taking, vertical measurement we'll be taking, is the length of the pants. The length of my pants is for 3.5 inches. So having done that, you're going to be adding your hemming allowance to it. So my hemming allowance is 1.5 inches. After getting the length of the pants now, what we'll do next is to still excluding the width of the waistband, we are going to be taking our hip depth. Okay, so my hip depth is, I use 9.5, I use 10 inches. So I'll probably use 10 inches at this point. It doesn't really, just with your hip depth, it doesn't really mean anything. So 10 inches is my hip depth. So having measured this out, what else we need is the crotch depth. So now, on a normal trouser note, when I want to get my crotch length for the trouser, for any trouser, whether pants or palazzo, I usually use my hip divided by 4, my hip circumference divided by 4 to just get that mark. Or I actually measure from my waist to my seat, the chair seat, or the seat of the chair, like this, and whatever I get is what I use straight. I don't add anything. Okay, but because this is a baggy palazzo, it's not meant to be fitted or anything like that. It's meant to be free and loose. I don't want it to be too free and too loose. So what I'll do is, my usual crotch depth is 12.5 inches. So what I'll be doing is adding 1 inch to it. Honestly, if I wanted, I could add 1.5, but I don't want it to be too, just too big. I don't want it to be as big as that. So I'll be going with 1 inch. This is my crotch line and this is my hip line. Okay, so to get your crotch extension for the front now, I use quarter of my hip divided by 4. So quarter of my hip is 12 inches, right? 12 inches in 4 is 3 inches. So I'll go ahead and mark 3 inches from the edge, like so. Okay, so this is 3 inches. So in order for it not to be as tight for me at the crotch part, I'll just go ahead and go in by additional ½ inch from that 3 inches. So this is 3.5 inches. So it's basically just saying your crotch extension plus ½ inch for probably seam allowance. So this 3.5, go ahead and mark it as well at the waist and connect from the crotch to the waist like so. creating a straight, you know, a straight center seam allowance. So what else is, I would come up at the center by 1/1/8 or 1/1/4, and I'll create my crotch curve. Okay, so I also usually do this. I call it waist contour, especially if you have a bit of pouch or fupa or belly. So I just come in by 1/2 inch. This is what I do like on a normal trouser. So, and also it doesn't excuse that it's a, how do I put it, it's a baggy palazzo. I still like to have my contours on the pants, so I will come down by 1/2 inch. Coming down by 1/2 inch, I'll connect it straight all the way to the side seam. So yeah. Okay, so having done that, so this is it. I won't bother putting what do you call it, seam allowances, because the measurements, the 8 inches we added for the bagginess, there's also seam allowance embedded in it. And I would advise not to use a lot of seam allowance, because if you use too much seam allowance, it won't be as baggy as mine came out to be. And cut off So just because I said do not add seam allowance does not mean you should add any allowance at the upper part. Please add about 1/2 inch allowance that you use to join the elastic or your waistband to it, please. So yeah. So I've added my 1/2 inches to it. So I'll go ahead and cut out my length, that's my desired length. I would also, separate the side of the pants. So now, what do I have? I have 2 pieces of the front. Okay, so I'll go ahead and keep this aside. When you want to cut out the pockets for the front, I've already gone ahead to illustrate how I want it, but I'll go ahead and just show you. So I made a square of about 10 3/4 by length, and the width is 9.5 inches. Okay, so go ahead and cut that out. 9.5 inches for the width and 10 3/4 for the length. Okay, so what I did is for my pocket opening, the length I use for my pocket opening is 7 inches, but I'll be adding 1 inch to it because of, we'll be sewing. I'll add 1 inch because we'll be covering it we'll use 1/2 inch and 1/2 inch for the top and bottom to, sew it. That is why I added extra 1 inch. So that makes the pocket width or the pocket opening 8 inches. Okay, so if you look at the design I drew on it, this is how the pocket is. I just drew the design I would love to have for my pocket, and this is 4 pieces of fabric, because 2 pieces of pocket for one part, then 2 pieces for another part. So go ahead and shape out what I want. So this is how the pocket is. Okay, so like this and like this. Go ahead and keep this aside along with the front. So this is the back piece. Now I folded it exactly how I said I would fold it. Whatever I got for my front piece on a fold, I multiplied it. I added 2 inches. Whatever I got on the fold for my front piece. So on the whole width length, I added basically 4 inches for the whole width. To make this more faster, I'll be placing my front piece onto the back piece. And what I did is, while placing it, and because we've already cut out some parts off from the material, what I did was to drag the front piece all the way to the length of the Ankara. And because the Ankara length isn't really, it's just 45 inches. I have told people like me that, how do I put it, the Ankara length isn't just tall enough. So if we look here, I have an addition of 1.5 inches. This 1.5 is basically just an addition of 1 inch, because you know, we already have a seam allowance inbuilt on the front piece, so automatically making the back also having a seam allowance. So, and you remember we came down by ½ inch, so that's why it's 1 inch. I don't know if you understand the calculation. So I have 1 inch at this point here, but because of the kind of, I'm of a plus size. So when I say plus size, I mean, that normally we're plus size. So there's some drafting method out there that I don't really like as a plus size person. I don't like to use as a plus size person, so I'm not going to be using that method. So what I'll be doing next is to, I think I had a shortage here for my piece. I don't know what to do now. So if you look here, I have a shortage at this point. I didn't see this because it was at the back of the material. I didn't see the shortage. So what I'll do is, whatever I have here, I'll leave it as that, at that. Like whatever allowance I have at this point, outside the crotch for the front, I'll leave it at that. So, you see this front crotch line? I won't go ahead and use that. I'm not going to be using this because for plus size, we usually have more at the back, you know. We have more, how do I put it, flesh at the back. So I'll be coming in by probably about 1.5 inches, and I will deepen the curve as well. So this 1.5 inches I came about, and just like I'm trying to create a guideline, so I'm going to be dragging this line down, like just trying to create a guideline. So this is the front measurement, the front crotch shape. We don't want that. We want to go in deeper for it to accommodate our butt, because I would hate to sit down and the back crotch should, you know, come down. I don't like that kind of exposure. So I'm just going to deepen. I'm going to be deepening that curve up until this 1.5 inches. Yeah, like so. Okay, and we'll be coming up to the total, up to this point here. And what I'll now do is to slant it up to, all the way to the side of the fabric. I'll be slanting it. Okay, I'll be slanting it all the way to the side of the fabric. So this is what it will look like. Okay, we're not cutting through this part. No, we are cutting through this one because we came inside. So if you notice, if you're paying attention, I came by 1.5. I used that to create a line, like I squared the line all the way to the crotch line, and I, you know, just reshaped it all the way to this 1.5. So just for a guideline, we can try curving or measuring what we have at the curve to see if it's close enough to our usual, you know, our usual pants when we make palazzos or normal usual pants. And for me, it's close enough, so I don't really have much of a problem there. So I'm just going to go ahead and cut that out now. And the cutting out is, so I'll open this up and I will cut out from this line that way. And honestly, if possible, come down by ½ inch. This would also help not to create a wedge in the pants. So we can see the difference between the front crotch and the back crotch. So I'll now go ahead and separate the sides of the back crotch, of the back pants. So you see the difference between the front and the back. The front pattern is smaller than the back by that 2 inches we did. So this is how the front is and this is the back. So now for my waistband, this is the waistband I'll be using. What I did was to subtract 8 inches from my overall waist measurement, for my overall waist circumference. So this is the elastic band I'll be using. So what I'll go ahead and do now is to join the front crotch and I'll join the back crotch. But before joining the crotch, I would also, to mark out my pocket now, my pocket position, I'll also go ahead and sew out my pocket. I will come down, you know, we have ½ inch here for joining to the waistband. I'll mark this down, mark this. So this ½ inch, from this ½ inch now, I will come down by 1 inch. I'll come down by 1 inch from this ½ inch. So this is the ½ inch. So my pocket placement will start from this 1 inch. So this is how my pocket would be. My pocket would be like this, because this is the side. So hence it will be like this. So you see it? You see my pocket now, they have a right and wrong part. So the right facing of the pocket is what is going to be inside the pocket. This is how the pocket would be on a normal basis, because this is the side now. So this is how the pocket would be. Okay, the pocket would be like this if we were to flip it. So for us to sew now, we'll remove this top one, and this bottom one that is looking, so you see they're both right, we'll flip the right of the pocket to face the right of the fabric, and I will stitch with my seam allowance of either half or 3/4 inches. Okay guys, so I have a tip for you. When you are sewing your pants, be it for male or female, it is better and always better to reinforce your back crotch stitch. That is, instead of just sewing it once, it's better to sew it twice, because we all know that accidents happen and we don't want, we don't want our pants to, tear or lose at the back. So this is the tip I have for you. I'll go ahead and join all 4 pockets together and get back to you. Okay, so this is what it looks like. This is the back piece. I'm gonna head to join every side of the pocket to both the front and back. After placing the front piece on the back piece, you see the pockets and the trouser aligned together. So I'll go ahead and when I'm sewing now, when I want to sew the sides together, this is the front and back together. So my seam allowance, I'll make sure it's more than where the pockets is joined together, probably like 1/4 inches more than. Okay, so for the pocket now, from this point, that's the pocket, I'll come down by 1/2 inch. This is the seam allowance I told you I added, and I'll sew the pockets round with 1/2 inch. I'll sew the pockets round with 1/2 inch. After sewing it with 1/2 inch, also at the bottom part with 1/2 inch, I will resume more than where this joining pocket is, and I'll come down and stitch all the way to the end. I'll do the same for the other side, and I'll join the crotch together, and I'll come back to show you what it looks like. So I've gone ahead to join every side and folded my hem. Okay, so now to place the elastic, I'll go ahead and use zigzag to cover the rough edges and overlap it like so. Then I'll place the sides and use my pin to place it on each side. Then I will sew on top it like this. So thank you once again for joining me here on this tutorial, and please don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. Also follow me on my different social media platforms to get more tips like this.